All right, welcome back. This is going to be our first book talk, and the book we're going with is going to be ACOTAR, naturally.
There's a reason.
There is a reason.
So we posted a little small, like very, very small bicker video. But what you guys saw was a very small snippet of what we actually talk about. And if we're truly being honest, the book is not really that deep. So we just kind of want to dive just a little bit deeper into the book, what happens in the book, what it's about, and where we stand with the characters and why we stand there.
Okay, that's fair. So you're going to start with like maybe first impressions or just overall thoughts?
For me, I did not read this book when it came out. I know you did.
Okay.
Because I read some when I was a kid, but she's like a lifelong reader. This is the series that got me into reading fantasy. Back in, I'd say 2017-ish is when I read this. I love this book. Like, I never wanted to put it down.
So I did read this when it came out. I was familiar with Sarah J. Maas at that point, and it was sold as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So I was like really into that at that time. But it's very loosely Beauty and the Beast. I think that was like
yes, and it's only the first book that's the Beauty and the Beast retelling. It does not follow really into the next ones.
And even then, I think it's the character that's more of the Beauty and the Beast retelling, not the actual story itself.
Yes,
like the imagery,
it's
roses,
got its own. Yes,
stuff like
the
that.
Roses. You know, some of like the not captivity, but like forced proximity. Well, no, kind of captivity. Yeah. No, my bad. Take that back. Rewind. Yes, that's what I mean. We are slowly going to make our way through all of these. And let me tell you, this one's going to be more on the mild side. But as we go, it's going to get hot.
We agree mostly with the first book.
Yes, and that's where it pretty much ends.
Okay.
But we'll kind of tell you where we stand. Who do you stand for? Who do you more lean towards?
I'm still a Tamlin girly. And yes, apparently we've been saying it wrong. That will happen a lot.
This is a shout out to Chris, our other best friend. You know, we both say Tamlin and Tomlin, and Chris corrects us. I'm so sorry. I also say Rysand, and I know it is Rysand, and it is Reese, and I say Rysand and
blame Sarah J. Maas for the way she spelled these names. Yes, I definitely lean more toward Tamlin, and honestly, in the first book, there's not much that I feel like you can argue against with Tamlin, and we can get a little bit deeper into that. But again, the more I've read it, because I think my problem was when I first read it, I thought Tamlin was endgame, and my feelings were hurt.
I can see that. I can see it because I'm not going to say that my feelings weren't hurt, but by the end of the first book, I knew he wasn't endgame. But up until about 3/4 of the way through, I thought he was it. I lean more towards Rysand. I said it right. And that's like a huge like mixed feelings. Both of them are very mixed feelings in the ACOTAR community. Is, you know, again, it's not really that deep. You know, so many people say that with Rysand, like, oh, his women shouldn't stand for the things that he's done. I also say this is a fantasy book. I am all for the truly morally gray. I do not want a white picket fence man. That's not who I'm looking for whenever I look at these books. I'm looking for that toxic man.
I'm a keep my comment to myself.
No, I'm not.
So because yes, Rysand is morally gray, and I said I wasn't going to do this.
It's okay. We do it every time.
But by the time you get to book 2, it's like he's just painted as this such a perfect figure in Farrah's eyes that to me he was honestly boring. That is another video for another day.
And I'm not dismissing because he does some very screwed up things. I'm not dismissing that. I wouldn't stand for these things in real life. Don't come for me. It's just what I like when I read.
Yeah, we like them in our books. So let's get that out the way.
Yeah. So she's Team Tamlin and I'm Team Rysand. But let's be honest, we're team in the middle, which also means
ultimately Lucian.
We're Team Lucian.
Yes.
We are on the highest pedestal for him. Like, we want him to have the best.
I just want Lucian to have a good ending.
Like, he's like a main side character that deserves a little limelight.
He deserves a happy ending, honestly. What's your favorite ACOTAR book? I'm just curious.
My favorite, I'm so sorry. My favorite is her least favorite.
I know.
Book 2, Mist and Fury.
I will say my favorite book is book 3. I think it's just the perfect.
Which one is that?
A Court of Wings and Ruin. I think it is perfect conclusion. A good mix of just good plot and good romance.
So kind of let's go ahead and jump into, what we're not going to get too in depth, but we're going to kind of go through what happens in the book and, our thoughts on it. So, we're going to open up, we'll talk about her family. She's poor.
Okay. It's mentioned that they did have wealth at some point. I think her father was a merchant, if I'm remembering correctly. And then she has 2 sisters. So you have Feyre, Nesta, and Elaine. Nesta's
a bitch.
Nesta's the oldest, and Feyre is the baby, essentially.
And Elaine is right in the middle, almost. She almost has no point.
She's kind of portrayed as
the peacekeeper.
Yeah.
Feyre is your
wild
your
one.
hunter. She's wild. She's the one that provides for the family. I put the father is useless.
Doesn't he? He's got a bum leg.
Yes. So he lost their wealth by ship in the sea.
I think he acquired some debt.
He basically failed his family. They moved into like a impoverished part of town, and then some debtors came and they basically broke down the door and beat the crap out of him. Now he has a bum leg.
Also, at this point, we should say that the mother, there is no mother in the story, of course. So she is dead.
She's dead.
We don't really know much about the mom either.
All we really know is that she made Feyre promise to take care of her family. Yeah. So I think she was like 14 when that happened.
Ooh, she was
a
young.
child.
So moving on, story opens up in the beginning of winter. So she goes out, they're like really low on food at this point, and she goes hunting and she sees this large wolf in the woods, and she's thinking this wolf is going to earn me a lot of money, we'll be able to eat, I'll maybe be able to do a few extra things for the family. So she kills it.
And she is right. It gives them a lot of food.
Yes.
She makes a pretty penny off of its hide.
And they go into the market, and this is kind of where we learn a little bit about the Fae here. So they're in this, I guess on this continent called Prythian, and essentially you have children of the blessed who worship the Fae. And then this kind of angers, I think, even Nesta a little bit. And a little bit of Feyre.
She's downright nasty to them. A little bit of time passes, and after they've gotten some of the wares that they needed, I think she bought some things for the siblings. They go back home. They're making stews out of the meat, and they're sat down to dinner one night, and a wolf quite literally busts their front door down. In strides our MMC
Tamlin, which is Fae, and then we find out that the wolf she killed was Fae.
Which we forgot to mention, she was thinking when she went to kill us, what if this is Fae? They do like to disguise themselves.
Because she also mentioned that it was like bigger than like a normal wolf. So she was sure it could have been Fae, and she didn't care in that moment. I mean, you're starving. So he basically busts down the door and says, since you basically killed one of my men. So he gives her an option basically saying that I can either kill you or you can come live out the rest of your days in Prythian.
If you've read the series, you know that a lot of them do die when they go over there, because it isn't a place just for humans to just be roaming around without any accompaniment. Right. So he takes her back to his land in the Spring Court in Prythian, over the border. He's very much not like cozy and friendly and stuff whenever they first meet, and for a while. But when they arrive there, she's very surprised to see that it's beautiful there. It's not like nasty creatures everywhere, and like it's not dark and scary. And this entire time he is a wolf. So whenever they get to the manor on his lands, and then he transforms into his Fae form, and he has that mask. You cannot see his face.
And everyone has the mask on, and this is where we learn about something called the Blight.
She basically knows that it's a sickness, is what she is told.
The magic is sick.
The magic is sick. The land is sick. That's all he says he can tell her, is that the land is sick. There's a blight, and they're all stuck with these masks on.
This entire time, Feyre is, I think, also trying to get back to her family because she is worried about them. And, she keeps thinking about the promise that she made to her mom about basically taking care of them, because essentially, who's going to do it? At this point, we meet a bunch of side characters. We have Lucian, we meet Alice,
Those are the two main ones. Is Alice, which is her like almost like her lady's maid, like helps her get ready, helps her get dressed. For now, those are really the only two people that she really knows in the court. That's really the only people that are there.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay, so then Feyre, I guess, wants to learn more about the Blight, and possibly at this point, is she wanting to try to fix it, or at least see what's going on? Or
Yeah,
is she
I think she's wanting to help, because like there was at one point that like she saw her father in the yard, but it wasn't her father. She tried to escape, and then Tamlin catches her outside and she finds out very quickly that it was a monster. I think it was called a naga. So she slowly starts coming to the realization, and I think he lets her know, you do not need, I'm not going to take away your family's one source of survival without providing them the means to survive. It kind of allows her to relax some, though it's still in the back of her mind.
Right.
But no, she does want to help with the Blight, I think, as she starts to calm down and settle into kind of a life there. So she asks Lucien.
And essentially, Lucien is just, he mentions the cereal, and yeah, I don't really want to say much about that, but
I mean,
he basically says, I guess, find the cereal. She's like, well, how do you catch one?
Yeah, and he says they love a chicken, and you have to lay a trap. She goes and she gets herself a chicken from the kitchens, and she goes and she lays this trap.
And surprisingly catches the cereal.
Yes, I didn't expect it to be as easy, but then again, she's a huntress, so it was. He doesn't tell her a whole lot. He gives her like little details, but then there's one thing he says before 3 Naga show up and ruin the whole ordeal. And what does he say?
Stay with the High Lord. Now, you can interpret that however you want to. I think it's pretty obvious who it is at this point.
Because he told her to stay with the High Lord, she does. She allows herself to start to relax and kind of be friendly with him.
And at this point, I think it's good to say that Tamlin doesn't know how to deal with Feyre either. He's not cruel. He's not outright cruel, but then he's also like not exactly warm and welcoming. He just doesn't know what to do with a human and Prythians. It's gonna sound terrible, but he does treat her almost like a pet. Like, I just have to keep you fed, watered, and safe.
So they kind of go through their days, just kind of getting to know each other, and you see slowly Tamlin starts to soften, and I think this was also because partially Lucien was like, knock it off.
However, I think as I read the book, you realize what their relationship is as you see it. It's definitely more of an infatuation, I think, especially on Feyre's part. Yes, I guess they start to fall in love, but it's like...
And like he does little things for her, like he asks her what she likes to do, and one thing she did like to do, even when they were poor, and she could afford the money, like afford to do it, she would get little pots of paint, or Elaine got her the little pots of paint as a gift. She likes to paint, so he showed her the gallery that was at his house after he had it cleaned up and dusted, and then he bought her a bunch of paint supplies, because you can also tell he's starting to develop feelings for her.
Right. But again, it's like, I also think they started developing feelings for each other because you're both in this situation where she's stuck here, and you essentially have taken ownership of her as well. The more I've read it, it doesn't exactly seem like this is going to end well.
So we're going to jump ahead a little bit to the next big thing that happens, which is, and I'm going to let her say it because I say it wrong every time. It is known as Fire Night, also known as
Calumet.
So it's basically where they replenish the land for spring, and they have to do this every year. And
it is a ritual.
It's a ritual, where he has to take someone to bed, basically, during this party, this ritual, and then between him and the connection he makes that night, and all the other connections that are made with all of the Fae that attend this party, their power pours back into the land and revives it for another year of spring. And every single court has this type of thing. Since this is a dangerous night for a human, Feyre is told to stay in the manor. Does she listen?
No. And this is also a dangerous night, I guess, for her too, because there's going to be other Fae there, and no one knows that she's there.
No, nobody has any idea that there's a human on the Spring Court property. This is where we're going to play elevator music while she gets pampered. That was actually Jeopardy. That was not
It's
elevator
kind of
music.
elevator music.
She did not stay put. She takes her little non-rule following rear end up to the fire night where all of the drums are going. There's music and there's food and all of these fae that she has never met.
So while she is out and about, she is cornered by 3 fae, and then we run into our other MMC,
Rhysand.
And honestly, upon reread, it is very obvious that was going to be the love interest, because he's the typical dark, broody, whatever, and she was apparently saying his eyes were purple, and I'm sorry.
He wraps his arm around her shoulder. He's like, there you are. Basically telling these 3 fae, get lost. She's with me. And when she looks at him, she literally makes, I can't remember the exact wording, but she's like, this is the most beautiful face I have ever looked upon.
Yes.
So after a brief chat with him, he goes on his way, because she basically said, I'm here with friends, even though she wasn't. She a little liar. And then Lucian catches sight of her.
And essentially, it's typical, what the hell are you doing out here? And I think he does actually escort her back.
He just yeets her over his shoulder and books it back to the manor because he's like, she is in danger up here and Tam's gonna kill me.
I think at some point, Tamlin comes back in from Calumet and is like, did you not think I could, not smell you? He knew she was there essentially the entire time.
And he is barely himself here. He is very drunk on the night and the magic, and he is basically borderline feral.
Yes, he bites her.
Pins her to the wall and bites her.
Right.
So before Calamai, it is important to note that when she was walking through the grounds with Tamlin, he heard something and he told her hide in those bushes there. And I think Lucian's with them. There's this invisible thing she cannot see, obviously, but she can hear, and it's the ACOTAR. And it just has she describes just the sound of its voice is grotesque. But it's basically on an errand from somewhere, bringing information or coming to taunt them. Just remember that person for later. Also, this is not a perfect dive into this book. We're getting there though. So we're gonna jump to one day when they're having, I think it's either lunch or dinner. I'm not entirely sure which meal it was without flipping through the book to find out.
They're eating.
Yeah, they're eating. And they're all having a very nice time talking. Nobody's arguing.
At this point, I think it's safe to say that they're all getting along, and
yes.
They do kind of find a little bit of a romance starting to happen at this point.
Yes. Also, I did not mention at all, and it should be mentioned, that Lucian has a mechanical eye. He's missing one eye. Just remember that for future books. They hear something, and they're like, somebody's here. So they take Farah to the window and push her behind Lucian, and they glamour her to look like he's just leaning against the window to protect her. And in walks, once again, our second MMC, Rhysand. You saw the look on her face.
I didn't mean to do that.
That was so bitter.
I did not mean to do that, no. But this scene really did piss me off. Great scene, but has the typical just arrogant High Lord. He immediately makes Lucian and Tamlin kneel, just kind of, I hate to say it, waving his around.
He definitely has an ego. There's nothing really mentioned about where he came from, but he's there taunting them and, saying, hey, you're running out of time. But she doesn't really know what that means. So he taunts them for a while, and he's going to leave until he realizes, and they realize as well, to their own detriment, that they left her plate unglamored, meaning there were 3 plates on the table and 2 people present. He sees through the glamour and is like, how dare you glamour Rhysand, the Almighty.
She gives him a fake name.
He asks her name.
And she gives him the name Claire, I'm guessing Bidor, which she gets mentioned very briefly in the very beginning.
That's just the first name that came to her mind. So that's the name she gave. Now, he did go digging around in her mind with his little talon fingers, his little mental fingers. I don't really know if he pulled anything, because all she can feel is him in her head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that he knew that was not her name, because he was in her head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not alluded to, so you don't really know. He takes that name and leaves, and we don't know what happens after that. But something spooks Tamlin and Lucien about his visit.
And essentially at that point, Tamlin decides to send her back home, because it's very clear that Feyre is in danger. And it's like, if Rhysand is showing up at the Spring Court, he's coming on the orders of Amarantha,
which we have not talked about Amarantha yet.
Right. Well, she's going to come in. They don't really say her name, I guess, at first.
But they don't really say her name. They can't say her name, which I guess we can... Let's make a little note that she returns to her family, finds out that he did indeed restore their wealth, and they are living in a wealthy area in a big mansion.
While she's basically back with her family, she realizes that she basically left Tamlin to deal with whatever it was alone, and she just wants to go and help or save him or do something, because at this point she realizes he's in danger.
After talking with Nesta, so she plants some flowers with Elaine, because Elaine be just a side character at this point in the first book. But she has a conversation with Nesta and finds out that Nesta was wearing a bracelet that she thought kept his glamour, because he glamored them to say that she had gone
with an
aunt that was dying to be with her in her last months or whatever.
It was an iron bracelet, but I don't think it did anything.
It didn't, but she thought it did. But it was really just her strong will.
Yeah.
That his glamour didn't hold on her, and she knew, and she tried to follow her.
Yes.
But got lost and had to return back home. So she basically says, go get your man. Go help him.
I just want to add in that, here is where we see that there's a little bit more to Nesta. She does come across as super bitchy in the very beginning, but then she clearly loves Feyre because she went looking for her. She is a very frustrating character, and honestly, I think she's frustrating the entire way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say she's one of my favorite characters, but I think her character development is done so well to where it's just I don't know, you appreciate Nesta a little bit more.
So she decides, yes, I'm going to go get him. So she gets a horse and she rides full throttle back to the Spring Court. Just to find that the manor is completely just ransacked.
The only one left, it looks like, is Alis, and then
Alice, something like that.
No, I'm sorry, it is Alice. I know for a fact it is Alice. I don't know why I said Alis.
I'm bad at names. So
I've been listening to you for too long.
I know.
Well, I guess now that he's been taken technically to Under the Mountain, Alice is able to tell Feyre exactly what the blight is and tell her a little bit about the curse.
But she didn't recognize her at first. She was like, where's Alice? Because she is no longer in the form, now that he's been taken, that she held before. She now has tree bark-like skin. Yes. So she's like, it's me. I'm Alice.
This is where the book, I really think, takes off, and then we get a whole lot of history right here. So at this point, we learn about Amarantha. Amarantha is the blight. She is the one who basically cursed the land, cursed the Spring Court
50 years ago.
She was one of Hybern's generals. Now, we hear about Hybern a little bit.
But he's really the coming book. He's not really this book. But it's just important, a name to know.
Right. So all that we learn is that she is one of Hybern's generals.
Who went rogue.
Yes, because I guess she was supposed to come back and never did.
Yeah, she never did.
Okay.
Is obsessed with Tamlin, but because he rejects her,
she essentially she puts the curse on the Spring Court. Basically, they were at a ball that night, and that's why they all have the mask on. They can never take them off. So
for a reason unknown to you at that time, you know that Amarantha hates humans. So because he is rejecting her, she puts a curse on him that basically in 50 years' time, if you do not get a human to say that she loves you and mean it with her whole heart, then you are mine.
Right. And then basically you have to come under the mountain with the rest of us.
Yes.
Now, at this point, we'll point out that Amarantha hates humans because she had a sister.
Clythia or Clythia. I'm not sure how you say that.
I'm going to say Clythia. I don't know.
I think it's Clythia.
And basically there was this human I guess you'd call him rebel, who was fighting the Fae named Jurian. He made her sister fall in love with him and basically was able to learn more about the Fae and, like, I guess kind of help the humans win the war. In doing so, he kills her sister brutally, actually.
And she's like, well, I'm going. And Ailish does try to warn her away from going under the mountain. Like, girl, you're a human. There ain't nothing you can do. Yeah. But she gonna do it anyway.
And honestly, I think reading this book like a second time, I was like, so we were just gonna go under the mountain, no plan, no nothing. We just
absolutely
went there,
just
and
rock and roll.
Immediately was captured.
Yeah, and guess who captures her? The ACOTAR. But this time, she can see the ACOTAR, and his voice matches his face. He is grotesque. And so he takes her, drags her right to the throne room, right in front of Amarantha, and drops her at her feet. And
there we actually see Tamlin there as well.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I think a lot of the Tamlin hate comes in. Tamlin is not doing anything. He's not acknowledging Feyre.
He's like monotone, just sitting beside the throne.
Right. And a lot of people wonder what the heck was happening with Tamlin in these scenes, which
yes,
I have my own theory. But
yeah, right in front of Amarantha, she's like, who is this? She finds out basically that is not Claire Better, because Claire Better is on the wall, nailed to the wall. She's been tortured and killed by Amarantha.
This scene, when I first read it, I don't think it hit me just how, like, traumatic that was for Feyre.
And because she did not say she loved him, and that does not hold true because the 50 years has come and gone. And so she says, I'll make a deal with you. If you can solve this riddle, and she gives her a riddle. I don't know what it is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Or 3 trials. You have to win 3 trials, 1 a month. Whichever comes first, you win. You can have him. The curse will be broken. Right now, she doesn't know the answer to that riddle. So, on to the trials we go.
And she is beaten, honestly, after that whole interaction with Amarantha.
They beat the absolute snot out of her, break her nose, and it is agonizing pain. But they just go throw her in a cell, to wait until her first trial. But Lucien finds her first.
So Lucien finds her, sneaks and heals her. But again, this is kind of like a one-time thing. Essentially, if he's caught, it'll be worse for Tamlin. And also keep in mind, during this entire time, Tamlin has not spoken or even acknowledged her.
Not even a blink.
No.
Like,
he is very just this.
It almost makes her think that Amarantha has some kind of spell over him.
I also think at this point, she starts to doubt Tamlin a little bit too, especially the longer the trials go on. She's really getting like, why isn't he saying anything to me?
Mm-hmm. After he heals her, they have the first trial, and it is the Midgard worm. And she basically has to kill the thing that's like 1,000,000 times her size.
Worth mentioning that all of the Fae are basically placing bets about whether she will survive or not. All the Fae bet against her except for Rhysand. He's the only one that bets for her. At this point, Rhysand is just more intrigued by her.
I think so. She basically covers herself in like its feces because it cannot see her, but it can hear her and it can smell her. So she covers herself in its own scent about a little ways into the game, realizing it'll knock her scent out. Lucien yells to her at some point, behind you or to your left or something.
He gives her a warning.
He gives her a warning, which I do think he is punished for later.
Very
much so. But she ends up creating like this trap for the worm in its own den where it sleeps out of its bones. And she makes a bone ladder for her to get back up out of its lair. So basically she uses herself as bait and flings herself down into its lair, and it comes crashing in behind her. She's able to get out of the way, but in the process, one of those bone shards goes through her left forearm and is just incredibly painful. Right. But it does kill the worm, and she wins that trial.
She's placed immediately back in her cell, and this is where we meet Rhysand. We have another interaction.
She festers there for a while, thinking that Lucien's going to come and heal her again. But she doesn't know that that's not going to happen. And so she festers. She gets a fever. She's in and out of sleep. She starts to get sweats. And her wound from her forearm, which the bone is still in, is becoming infected.
And walks Rhysand, and he basically
He's being a dick.
I mean, he's like, okay, so he's like, I will heal you, but you basically have to make a deal with me. And she straight up says no. And also keep in mind at this point, she only knows him as a villain. So what does he do? He grabs the bone and just causes so much pain.
Well, she almost blacks out.
Right. To where she made the deal. And basically that deal, I think, was...
Which they negotiated a little bit on the deal. It was that, I can't remember the exact length of time. I think it was 2 weeks.
Out of the month or
2 weeks out of the month that she would come and spend with him in the night court. And she whittled that down to eventually a week, a month in the night court. It creates like almost like a tattoo on her arm with a eye in the palm of her hand.
So then we kind of go on to the second trial. Now, during this time, I think we should also mention that Rhysand kind of makes her his like plaything. Like they have things happening under the mountain, and she accompanies him. She's dressed in very like revealing clothing. He ends up doing something to where it's like...
He paints her in like a gold paint. And he says that if anybody touches her, that he would know because he would remember where he touches her. But if anybody else touches her, it will show on the paint.
Kind of drugged and just honestly humiliated a lot under the mountain.
He does. Now, a lot of people say that this was only for his gain. Now, while I will give credit to that, he did a lot of this for his own gain and to really mess with Tamlin, because Tamlin does have to see all of this transpire of him basically using her being in his lap, dancing for him. But he also does it for her as well. A lot of people won't agree with me, but I do see that because he drugs her so she will not remember the worst of it.
Right. Okay.
Well, so, that's my view. That's my view.
No.
It doesn't have to be everybody's.
No, that is fine. And I agree that he did, I don't think he did it all for his gain, but then it's like some of the things he did, it's kind of like, now was that necessary? So
no,
it's like,
probably not.
Safe to say, I think a lot of people disagree a lot with like the things that were happening under the mountain with those two particular. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. He's just a morally gray character. But
for me, I don't find too much wrong with these scenes because I root for the morally gray character. Like I ate up the things he was doing, and does that make me kind of crooked? I don't know, maybe, but I really lived for it. Like, cause she was really wasting away in that cell, yes. And he saw it. He's not completely inhumane in his mind that he can't realize that she was going through it. So her next trial comes, and it is a riddle.
I think we don't find out that she can't read, but it's also like that was the trial, was reading. She basically had to, I guess, solve a riddle or something.
It was solve a riddle, and it was a 2-sided cage, her on one side with Lucian on the other side of the cage, and the ceiling was lowering that had spikes on it. If it got to the bottom, it was going to kill him.
We'll just kind of fast forward. Rhysand helps her in that trial.
So if you remember that when they struck that bargain, there's an eye on her hand. Well, he can trigger like little like shocks through it. She wins that trial because he helps her. And then we go and we basically do the same thing over again. She's doing chores for Amarantha and kind of get a little bit of scene with Lucian's mom for saving his life and stuff. And so she kind of helps her in one of the chores. You get a couple little scenes in there where she's being punished and she's to clean the lentils from Rhysand's fireplace. But, he's intrigued by her, so nothing really happens.
I think at some point he reveals to her what he's been trying to do when she's actually in there with him.
Yes. You kind of learn a little bit about his relationship with Amarantha while they're in there in his room. And that basically, and you kind of already hear it, that he's called Amarantha's whore. And basically he's as much a prisoner underneath the mountain as everyone else, yeah. Just with a little bit more freedom because he plays his part. He has also not been to his home in 50 years. There is a little moment during one of those in-between times where, in between the second and the third trial, where Tamlin breaks his thing. It breaks his silence.
Yes. And I think they end up meeting in a closet. And again, this is another point of contention for a lot of fans. It's like, okay, the I think it's the night before the trial, actually.
Yes, and they're at a party.
And essentially they hook up in a closet or something like that.
Almost. Like, it almost gets there. I don't think it doesn't fully go there, but
right.
But they're hot and heavy in the dark in this room.
And I guess I interpret that as he thinks they're going to die.
Yeah, he does.
I think
there's no escape plan being had. It's just hot and heavy in this room.
So most people get upset. It's like, this is what you choose to do because you didn't do anything else. And again, I think at this point he had given up. He had just suspected that she was going to kill Feyre either way, and that was kind of it. So
all of a sudden, here comes Rhysand, and he busts up in the room, and it's almost he's not doing it for himself at this point. Amarantha has noticed that he's missing, and she's coming. So he trades places with Tamlin, and is basically hot and heavy with Feyre. This is very unexpected for Feyre. Kind of puts Tamlin in the clear with Amarantha. So then we get to our third and final trial, and it is where she is given 3 Fae, and she has to drive a dagger through their heart and kill them. She struggles with this.
She does. And at this point, like I said, Feyre already has PTSD at this point. She's already traumatized. So she does kill the first 2 Fae, and then
their heads are covered with sacks. She can't see them until she gets to them.
And then she gets to the last Fae, and of course it is Tamlin. There's also this quote of him like having a heart of stone. So his heart literally is stone. So at that point, he could not be killed.
And when she stabs him, it just crumples. So she completed the task and she won, but Amarantha wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Feyre figured out the answer to the riddle, which was love.
Of course.
And I can't remember what the riddle is. I'm so sorry. You'll have to look that up. And Amarantha still is not having this, and she kills Feyre.
Now, I had a lot of satisfaction. Tamlin ends up killing Amarantha, and then at this point, Feyre is dead. Amarantha has snapped her neck. So we also notice that Rhysand is screaming, and it's almost like Feyre has an out of body moment,
which we find out in another. Exactly. We find out later what that is. We just don't know right now. But she's having an out-of-body experience.
And Tamlin basically pleads with the High Lords, like, look, she saved you all. We're free. The curse is broken. Bring her back.
Because they each hold a kernel of power to be used in tandem with everybody else to bring somebody back to life.
They do that, and essentially Feyre comes back as Fae.
They're kind of resting for now before they gear up to leave under the mountain, and you get like a little conversation that happens between Rhysand and her in the hallway.
His reaction.
He has like this, like he basically, like they kind of reflect on their time underneath the mountain together, and then right before he is about to shadow step out of existence back to wherever he lives, he takes like this step back. It's not like an audible gasp, but like a shocked step back, and then he just disappears, and that's all you hear of it.
We see the relationship with Tamlin and Feyre already kind of fracturing because they just kind of decide not to talk about anything that happened under the mountain.
And they both have so much trauma, but they're trying to make it work.
So essentially, they go home. They're going back to the Spring Court. They don't talk about anything that's happened under the mountain. I think at this point, they're just trying to move forward the best way they can.
Yes. And that's really where the book ends. And we will cover book 2 soon. So just like I said, and we'll probably say in every single video, just turn on your little alarm bar and subscribe, and you'll be able to keep up to date on everything we do and what book comes next, which will be
Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Kemmerer. This is her first adult novel, and she has already finished it. I'm almost there. I'm really enjoying it. So yes, we'll talk about this next week.
Feral. I cannot wait to talk about it. We'll see you next time.
Bye.